Bonsoir, good evening, and welcome to our public meeting in regard to zoning on November 27, 2025. Bonsoir et bienvenue à notre réunion publique concernant le zonage en date du 27 novembre 2025. Ça, c'est notre ouverture. On s'en va à l'item numéro 2, l'adoption de l'agenda. Be it resolved that Council approve the agenda of November 27, 2025 in regards to the public meeting as presented. Proposeur appuyeur. Oh, faut que j'attende. Madame, I'll just wait for Madame Collard. C'est-tu mieux? Plus de stéréo? Donc, j'avais une proposition concernant l'agenda de ce soir, proposée par M. Duval, appuyé de Mme Bigelow. All those in favor? Those against? Carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Item number 4, proposed zoning bylaw amendment white in regards to file Z-05-2025. We have a staff presentation. Madame Jariwala, good evening. Welcome to our public meeting. I will give you the floor.
Good evening. Thank you. Just checking that you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Thanks. So I'll start by sharing my screen here with the presentation. So starting with file Z05-2025. So this public meeting is a requirement of the Planning Act and is being held to provide an opportunity for the public to voice their comments and concerns with regards to the proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw. If a person or public body would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of the Township of Champlain to the Ontario Land Tribunal, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Champlain before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. A person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So this particular application, the subject property is at 283 Happy Hollow. The proposed zoning amendment is to rezone the retained lands from agricultural to agricultural special exception, in this case A40, in order to prohibit residential uses and to reduce the lot area to 11.9 hectares and the lot frontage to 75.4 meters. So the proposed rezoning of these lands is a condition of severance application B027-2025. So in this drawing here, you can see the entirety of the property, 283 Happy Hollow. What you see in pink is what is now the residential portion. So this was previously a surplus farm dwelling application. So the pink is where the residential use is. The yellow that you're seeing in this drawing is the agricultural lands, and those are the lands that are the subject of this application. So getting into the planning analysis, first is the provincial planning statement. So the PPS states that in prime agricultural areas, the permitted uses include agricultural uses, agricultural related uses, and on-farm diversified uses. The PPS also states that one residential lot per farm consolidation for a resident surplus to an agricultural operation may be permitted, given two criteria. One, that the lot will have a minimum size needed to accommodate the use and appropriate services. And two, that the planning authority ensures that new dwellings and additional residential units are prohibited on any remnant parcel of farmland created by the severance. So Again, these are the conditions under which the severance was previously approved, where the residential component was limited in size, and the remnant farm parcel has to be rezoned. And so that's what is before us today. So next, for planning analysis, we have the United Counties of Prescott and Russell official plan. So the official plan states that there are certain criteria that need to be satisfied in order to do a surplus residential farm dwelling. Those criteria are listed below. So the first is that it is habitable, the residence is habitable. 2, the area of farmland that's attached to the surplus house is kept to a minimum size, as I discussed before. So that's a minimum size related to the services and also just taking into consideration the context of where it is. 3rd, the minimum distance separation formula requirements are met. So these criteria were satisfied, therefore the severance was completed. The focus today is the last part here that says the consent approval authority shall impose a condition on the severance of the surplus farm dwelling, which shall require a zoning bylaw amendment prohibiting the construction of a new residential dwelling on the farmland parcel rendered vacant as a result of the severance. And essentially the reason for this is to reduce the fragmentation of agricultural lands. So next, getting into the township zoning bylaw. So as I stated, the purpose of this zoning amendment is to rezone the retained lands from agricultural to agricultural special exception 40 in order to reduce the lot area and the lot frontage. So the bylaw currently requires for agricultural properties to have a lot area of 40 hectares and a lot frontage of 100 meters. It is important to note that the existing lot, like 283 Happy Hollow as it exists, the existing lot prior to consent had an area of 12.87 hectares. So it was already not in compliance with the bylaw. The existing frontage was 148 meters, so it was in compliance. So this application is looking to reduce, just to reiterate, is looking to reduce the area from what was 12.87 to now 11.9, and to reduce the frontage of what was 148 to 100. To 75.4. And here is just another drawing. This was the image that was circulated with the notice. Again, here just identifying the surplus farm residential use piece is the smaller piece, and the larger piece is the subject of this application. So this application was received on September 29th. The application and the proposed amendment was circulated to internal and external agencies on November 5th. The mail notices were also sent to neighbors within 120 meters of the property in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. The decision on this matter will be considered at the next council meeting. I know here it says January 27th, but I believe the next council meeting will be on January 29th. There will be a 20-day appeal period following the notice of the decision and the passing of the bylaw. If you wish to be notified of this decision of council, you must make a written request addressed to the clerk. And that brings me to the end of the presentation.
Thank you, Mrs. Jariwala. Member of council, any questions in regards to this presentation? Seeing none. Members of the public is allowed to speak or question any? Nothing. So this will end this section of item number 4. So we'll move on to item number 5, proposed zoning bylaw amendment, Litvin and Bloomhuber, in regards to file Z-06-2025. Again, the staff presentation, Madam Jariwala.
Thank you. So getting into the next presentation for file Z06-2025. So there is a lot of repeat between the presentations, so I will keep the second one a bit short. So again, this public meeting is a requirement of the Planning Act. for anyone that would have an ability to appeal the decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. They do need to make a oral or written submission, and any person or public body that may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the tribunal, unless in the opinion of the board there are reasonable grounds to do so. So the affected property for this application is 1451 Pleasant Corner Road. The proposed zoning amendment is to rezone the retained lands from agricultural to agricultural special exception zone A41 in order to prohibit residential uses. And the proposed amendment is also to rezone the severed lands from agricultural to agricultural special exception zone A42 in order to prohibit agricultural uses and to increase the total accessory building lot coverage to 268 square meters to retain the existing accessory structures. This proposed rezoning of the lands is a condition of severance application B003-2024. So again, similar to the previous application that I just spoke to, this was also a surplus farm dwelling consent, where what you see in the pink is where the residential uses are. What you see in the yellow is the retained farm parcel. So this application is looking to do two special exceptions. One, to prohibit residential uses for the larger piece. The other is to acknowledge the size of the accessory building lot coverage. So much of the planning analysis is the same, as it is the same type of application as it's related to a surplus farm dwelling. So first is the provincial planning statement. So again, the policy states that in prime agricultural areas, the permitted uses include agricultural uses. And again, the policy states that one new residential lot per farm consolidation for a residence surplus to an agricultural operation is permitted, provided two conditions. One is the limited and keeping of minimum size to accommodate the use and appropriate services. And the second, which is the focus of today, is that the planning authority ensures that new dwellings and additional residential units are prohibited on any remnant parcel of farmland created by severance. So next is the United Counties of Prescott and Russell official plan. The UCPR official plan states, again, that there are three conditions to satisfy in order to do a surplus residential dwelling. First being that it's habitable, second being the minimum size requirement, and third being that the minimum distance separation formula requirements are met. So these conditions were all discussed and deemed to be satisfied. Therefore, the consent was approved. The focus of today is again that last part where it says that the consent approval authority shall impose a condition on the severance of the surplus farm dwelling, which shall require a zoning bylaw amendment prohibiting the construction of a new residential dwelling on the farmland parcel rendered vacant as a result of the severance. And again, the reason for this is to prevent the fragmentation of prime agricultural lands. So now getting into the township zoning bylaw. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the retained lands from agricultural to agricultural special exception zone A41 in order to prohibit residential uses. Second, the proposed amendment is also to rezone the severed lands from agricultural to agricultural special exception zone 42 in order to prohibit agricultural uses and to increase the total accessory building lot coverage to 268 square meters to retain the existing accessory structures. So I will just note that I believe the maximum is 200. So they're increasing from 200 to 268 square meters to retain those structures. I will also note that we are still in discussion with the applicant to just verify that that number 268 is accurate. That number may fluctuate a little bit up or down based on the information that we get from the surveyor. Ultimately, the intent of the notice and this public meeting will remain the same. That is just a slight technical change that may be brought forward when this application comes back to council. Lastly, I will note that the area and frontage of both lots is compliant. So again, this was the image that was circulated with the notice. So here you can see, again, the two pieces. So the farmland is the larger piece that is being proposed to be rezoned to A41, and the smaller piece is to A42. So this application was received on October 21st, 2025. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment was then circulated to internal and external agencies on November 5th. Mail notices were sent to neighbors within 120 meters of the subject property in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. So the decision on this matter will be considered at the next council meeting. As I mentioned, I believe that's January 29th. There will be a 20-day appeal period following the notice of the decision and the passing of the amending bylaw. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the municipal council, you must make a written request addressed to the clerk. And that brings me to the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Jariwala. At this time, I'll ask council if they have any questions in regards to your presentation. Seeing none, I do have one. In regards to your presentation, you refer this as agricultural land. I do believe that in the United Counties official plan, it is zoned agricultural, but your plan shows RU, which is residential. Or rural, rural.
I can speak to that.
Okay.
So there was a bit of a typo that I caught as I was going through this presentation. You are right, the properties are currently zoned rural. But they will be moving to agricultural special exception zones. So the reason for this nuance is that, as you know, the United Counties of Prescott and Russell did their official plan 3 years ago now. We should be updating our zoning bylaw to match with the updated United Counties of Prescott and Russell official plan. However, we have not updated our zoning bylaw yet. So this property was a property that was previously zoned rural. Through that official plan update, this property has now been designated as agricultural. So when we do catch up, like when our zoning bylaw is updated to match, this property will become an agricultural property. Now, in order to sort of save us the hassle at the time, if we give this property a rural special exception zone, at the time of that update, we will need to capture it again. So it has been our approach so far that if there is a property that was previously rural and is going to become agricultural, it makes more sense for us to rezone it to an agricultural special zone, because that's something that we will have to do in the future anyway, in order to conform with the UCPR official plan. So that is a bit of a technicality. That's just because our zoning bylaw is not currently up to date with what is the latest county official plan.
Okay, got it. Thank you. At this time, I'd ask any members of the public if they have any questions or comments. Seeing none. So this will conclude our public meeting in regards for this evening. Thank you, Madame Jariwala. Just don't go too far. We have our council meeting after, and I do believe your service are also required at that time. So we'll move on to item number 6, which is the adjournment. Be it resolved that the public meeting of November 27, 2025 be adjourned. Proposal appuyeur, mover seconder, Madame Bigelow, seconded by Monsieur Minor. All in favor? Those against? Carried. We'll take a 2-minute break in order to switch the YouTube version. Thank you.